You know, we often live our lives in a constant flow of distractions, responsibilities, and the pressures of the modern world. But there's something much deeper, something far more profound that many of us overlook, and that's the guidance of the Archangels. These spiritual beings are constantly communicating with us, offering protection, wisdom, and messages that are meant to guide us along our highest path. But here's the thing, when we ignore their guidance, when we turn a blind eye to the subtle nudges they give us, it's not without consequence. In fact, ignoring Archangel guidance comes with some deeply negative repercussions. And today we're going to explore what happens when we choose to block out that divine wisdom. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever had a gut feeling, an intuitive nudge, and you just ignored it? So maybe it was a subtle feeling of unease about a certain decision, or maybe you felt drawn to a particular path, but you didn't follow through. Well, if you're like most people, you probably had those moments. You brushed off that little voice inside, thinking it was just your imagination. But what if that wasn't just a random thought? What if that was Archangel guidance trying to steer you in the right direction? And what if, by ignoring it, you set yourself up for a series of challenges that could have been avoided? The first consequence is quite simple. We lose our connection to divine wisdom. Archangels are constantly sending us messages, but when we don't listen, we begin to sever that sacred communication. It's like having a phone call with someone, and instead of listening to what they're saying, you keep hanging up. The more you hang up, the less likely they are to keep trying to reach you. It's not that the Archangels ever abandon us, but when we continually ignore their messages, we become less attuned to their energy. We start to feel disconnected from that divine source of wisdom, and as a result, we begin to make decisions that are out of alignment with our true purpose.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Think about this for a moment. What choices in your life have you made based on the ego, based on fear or doubt, rather than from a place of spiritual alignment? When we ignore the guidance of the Archangels, we often find ourselves making decisions that lead us down paths of struggle, confusion, and even suffering. It's not that life is supposed to be easy all the time, but when we're in tune with divine guidance, we move with the flow of the flows. Things become more harmonious. We still face challenges, but we face them with grace and understanding. When we ignore that guidance, however, we create unnecessary resistance. It's like swimming upstream when all we had to do was let the current carry us. But what happens when we continuously block out this guidance? Well, one of the most significant consequences is that we attract negative energy into our lives. You see, Archangels are beings of light, and their purpose is to protect us, to help shield us from lower vibrational energies. When we ignore the protection, we leave ourselves vulnerable. We open the door to energies that are not in alignment with our highest good. This can manifest in many ways. Perhaps we find ourselves surrounded by toxic people, or we begin to feel drained, anxious, or even depressed. The Archangels are always there, offering us protection, but when we don't listen, we lower our own vibration, and in doing so, we become a magnet for negativity. So, let me ask you, are there areas in your life where you feel like you're constantly struggling? And do you feel like no matter how hard you try, you keep getting pulled into situations that drain your energy? It's possible that by ignoring the guidance of the Archangels, you've unintentionally opened yourself up to these lower energies. And the thing is, this doesn't just impact your mood or your emotions, it begins to affect every aspect of your life. When we repeatedly ignore the guidance of the Archangels, we don't just invite negativity into our lives, we create energetic blockages that prevent us from moving forward. These blockages can manifest in many ways. Perhaps you feel stuck in your career, or maybe you're unable to find fulfilling relationships. It's as if there's an invisible wall standing between you and the life you truly desire. And that wall is built brick by brick every time we choose to ignore the wisdom that's being offered to us. You see, the archangels are constantly guiding us toward our highest potential. Their messages are meant to help us break free from limiting beliefs and patterns that keep us trapped in cycles of mediocrity. But when we don't heed their guidance, we remain stuck in those old patterns. It's like trying to walk through life with a blindfold on. One can't see the opportunities that are right in front of us because we're too busy clinging to our limited perspective. And here's the thing, these energetic blockages don't just go away on their own. They require conscious effort to remove. The longer we ignore the guidance of the archangels, the more entrenched we become in those blockages. It's as if the universe is saying, I'm giving you the tools to break free, but you have to be willing to use them. And when we don't, we find ourselves repeating the same patterns over and over again, wondering why nothing in our lives is changing. But let me ask you this, what patterns are you repeating in your life? Where do you feel stuck? Is it possible that by ignoring the divine guidance that's being offered to you, you're creating your own obstacles? The archangels are always here, ready to help us clear those blockages, but they can only do so if we're willing to listen. Now you might be wondering how these blockages actually form. It's simple. Every time we make a decision that's out of alignment with our higher self, we create a ripple effect that impacts our energy. And over time, those ripples turn into waves that pull us further away from our true path. The archangels are constantly trying to steer us back on course, but when we don't listen, we end up drifting further and further from where we're meant to be. And here's the real kicker. These blockages don't just affect us, they affect everyone around us. When we're out of alignment with our purpose, we can't fully show up for the people in our lives. We're not able to give our best energy to our relationships, our work, or our passions. And so, the people who depend on us, the people who love us, are also impacted by our inability to move forward. It's a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves. But here's the good news, it's never too late to clear those blockages. The archangels are always ready to help us realign with our true path, but we have to be willing to listen. We have to be willing to let go of the patterns that no longer serve us and open ourselves up to the guidance that's being offered. So I ask you, what are you holding on to that's keeping you stuck? What would happen if you finally let go of those old patterns and allowed the archangels to guide you toward your highest potential? Another negative consequence of ignoring archangel guidance is emotional turmoil. When we're out of alignment with our spiritual path, our emotions often become chaotic, so we might feel anxious, depressed, or even angry without fully understanding why. This emotional turbulence is a direct result of ignoring the messages that are meant to guide us toward peace and balance. You see, the archangels are not just here to guide us on a spiritual level, they're also here to help us navigate our emotional world. They offer us wisdom on how to heal our wounds, how to release past traumas, and how to cultivate inner peace. But when we don't listen to their guidance, we end up carrying the weight of our emotional baggage with us wherever we go, and that weight can be crushing. Well, think about it. Have you ever felt like you're carrying a heavy burden, emotionally speaking? Maybe it's something from your past that you just can't seem to let go of. Or maybe it's a constant feeling of unease that follows you throughout your day. That burden often comes from ignoring the guidance that's being offered to us. The archangels are constantly trying to help us release that weight, but when we don't listen, we end up carrying it around with us, and it begins to affect every aspect of our lives. This emotional turmoil can lead to a feeling of disconnection not just from the archangels, but from ourselves. We become so caught up in our own emotional struggles that we lose sight of who we truly are. We would forget that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we begin to identify with our pain, our struggles, and our limitations. But the archangels are always here to remind us of our true nature. They are constantly offering us messages of love, healing, and support. And when we ignore those messages, we end up feeling lost and disconnected, both from our spiritual path and from our own inner truth. But here's the thing, emotional turmoil doesn't have to be a permanent state. The archangels are always ready to help us heal, to help us release the emotional baggage that's weighing us down. But we have to be willing to listen. We have to be willing to open ourselves up to their guidance and trust that they have our highest good in mind. So, let me ask you, what emotional burdens are you carrying right now? Are you ready to release them? Are you ready to listen to the guidance that's being offered to you and finally step into a place of emotional peace and balance? Finally, one of the most profound consequences of ignoring archangel guidance is that we stunt our own spiritual growth and evolution. The archangels are here to help us grow, to help us evolve into the highest version of ourselves. They offer us insights, lessons, and opportunities for growth. But when we don't listen, we remain stagnant. We miss out on the opportunities for spiritual expansion that are constantly being presented to us. Spiritual growth is not a linear process, it's an ongoing journey of learning, healing, and transformation. And the archangels are here to guide us every step of the way. But when we ignore their messages, we end up staying in the same place, spiritually speaking. We don't learn the lessons we're meant to learn, and as a result, we don't evolve into the beings we're meant to become. So this loss of spiritual growth is perhaps the most significant consequence of all, because when we're not growing, we're not living in alignment with our true purpose. We're not fulfilling the potential that we came here to fulfill. And that's a tragedy, not just for ourselves, but for the world as a whole. Because when we grow, when we evolve, we're able to share our light with others. We're able to make a positive impact on the world around us. But when we ignore the guidance of the archangels, we rob ourselves and the world of that potential. So, I ask you, are you ready to step into your full spiritual potential? Are you ready to listen to the guidance that's being offered to you and finally embrace the growth and evolution that you're here to experience? The time is now. The archangels are ready. The only question is, are you?